first two major questions that Bryson Graham is probably going to have to answer is A, who's going to be his GM, and who's going to be the next head coach to lead the Chicago Bulls. We got some rumors in regards to both those, as the Chicago Bulls are reportedly still pursuing Dave Lewin from Boston to become the GM under Bryson Graham. And also, Tom Thibodeau has thrown his hat in the ring to be the Chicago Bulls' next head coach, or has he? We'll talk a little bit about that and how aggregation has kind of turned that into something that he didn't actually say, and why Modest Buzelis is now primed even more to take a leap in year 3 with Bryson Graham at the helm. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Sarah Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And I'm sure many people have seen the headlines, the tweet, whatever it is, of Tom Thibodeau wants to come back and lead the Chicago Bulls. And this is an important part, and, what I always try to do here is that we talk about everything here at Chicago Bulls Central, right? That's why the name of the channel is Chicago Bulls Central. I want you to get everything from your news to your rumors to your updates, your analysis, projections, everything right here at Chicago Bulls Central. That is the point of what we do here as a show, and that is exactly why we're here, right? And so in doing that, it also means debunking some things that are reported incorrectly, and I want to be clear here, right? So while I saw it, and I reacted to it initially too, the way that some people are talking about this is almost as if Tom Thibodeau came out and said, listen, I want that Bulls job. I want to get back with the Chicago Bulls. Let's see what's going to happen. That's not really how this went at all. So what was going on here is that Tom Thibodeau had an interview, right? And he was talking about wanting to get back into coaching, right? Saying that this is with Sam Amick of The Athletic, and that he has every intention of continuing his coaching career, even at 68 years old. He has that, right? And Amick went on to state that Tom Thibodeau would have an interest in the Bulls reunion if the new front office approached him. Not that he specifically, I want to go back to the Chicago Bulls. He was asked about even the Chicago Bulls and basically said yes, right? That's what this is. And it's not a surprise there. Tom Thibodeau is somebody that you can have no question about. He loves basketball. There's no question about that. Tom Thibodeau loves being around basketball. He loves coaching basketball. He loves the game of basketball. Tom Thibodeau is a basketball fanatic. He loves the game. He loves the sport. And it's a sport that he spent basically the entirety of his life being a part of in one way or another. So, yes, he loves that. And so there's no doubt that Tom Thibodeau at this point wanting to get back into coaching would probably be interested in just about any job that came forward to him. He's been reportedly as a name to look out for in the Orlando Magic case. So is Billy Donovan, some other names in regards to that one. I don't think he's popped up in the Pelicans. Pelicans kind of have their short lists. Sean Sweeney, Rajon Rondo are on their short list as well, right? And so the question now becomes about, would the Bulls even realistically look at Tom Thibodeau? And here's the thing, right? My mindset, and we were talking in the Discord about this, and my mindset on this has been always, like, I when somebody new comes in to lead a team, whether it's a coach, no matter what it is, I say, all right, bet, like, I'm going to trust their judgment until they show me otherwise. And that's where I'm at with Bryson Graham, right? Like, Bryson Graham, I'm going to trust his judgment until I start seeing whether or the results of his moves, and then I'll know how I'm going to feel on that going forward. So I'll say this. I want to start off at a baseline. If Bryson Graham conducts a head coaching search and he determines, hey, Tom Thibodeau is the best guy for this phase of the Chicago Bulls to lead this team, to coach this team, I'll be like, okay, Bryson signed off on it. That's the coach that he wanted. Let's see how it works. But on my own thought process, right, if you were to ask me if Hayes was the GM of the Chicago Bulls and you were to ask me, no knock to Tom Thibodeau. I want to be clear on this. I love Tom Thibodeau. He's my second favorite Chicago Bulls coach of all time, only second to Phil Jackson. And what Tom Thibodeau was able to do here in Chicago was establish a culture, develop players, all those type of things. Yeah, there are some downsides to Tom Thibodeau. He ran players into the game with a heavy minutes load, all that type of stuff. We know. Joakim Noah, Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose probably would have all had even longer careers if it wasn't for how long they spent being coached under Tom Thibodeau. It is what it is, right? But I do think with this that Tom Thibodeau is a win now coach. So if Bryson Graham were to hire Tom Thibodeau, that would mean that the Bulls are once again going win now right now. Now, one could also say, well, Hayes, will Tom Thibodeau be good for the development of some of the players on this team? I could say, yeah. I mean, Tom Thibodeau was another guy that didn't always play rookies early, but he did allow guys to earn roles, and it seemed like there was an intention behind it for sure in that as well, right? So I think that in regards to Bryson Graham and his ability to scout young talent, I think that you have to look at that and say, okay, if he feels that Tom Thibodeau is the right guy to do that, I don't know if I necessarily feel that where Tom Thibodeau is right now in his coaching career. But hey, I do think that Tom Thibodeau does bring some things to the table that could be really good, right? I think in regards to it, like you look at how he helps establish an identity for franchises that don't have it. He did that with Chicago. He did that with Minnesota when they were trying to turn things around. And even the New York Knicks right now are still running a lot of Tom Thibodeau's defense, right? That's just what they're still doing. That is the reality of it, right? But is that the culture that Bryson Graham really wants here? And that's the question that is going to have to be. Is the first wave of decisions that Bryson Graham wants to make is putting in a coach like Tom Thibodeau that we already know is not afraid at some point to be us versus the front office. I don't know if that's the thing, right? He is very respected, Tom Thibodeau is, around the league. And there's no doubt that he is a solid basketball coach. But what's the thing that I say about almost everything in the NBA? You have a time period where stuff starts passing you by. That's just the reality of it, right? That is how the game of basketball works. It's eventually stuff starts passing you by. You don't stay up to where the league has shifted or whatever, right? And it feels like, again, because I don't know, I haven't talked to Bryson Graham. It feels like that this team is going to be on a complete youth movement. And I would not be surprised to see a young and up and coming head coach to come in here. But one could say as well, what if Tom Thibodeau does not get a head coaching job? Would he take a job on a young coach's bench? That's the thing that I want to hear in this one, because the thing in the Sam Amick interview was that he has Tom Thibodeau does plan on continue his coaching career. Does not say head coaching career. And we've seen that sometimes coaches have to take a job. Now, will Tom Thibodeau do that? I don't know. He's a very prideful guy. I don't know if he'll go back to being an assistant. I don't know but if he strikes out as a head coach and there are no teams that bite on him as a head coaching candidate, would he be on the bench of a young coach that the Bulls could lead? Maybe then, right? And I say that as a maybe. This is speculation. This is not me reporting. This is not anything that anybody said or that I heard. It's just a thought process that if you do go Thiago Splitter, if you do go Johnny Bryant, if you do go Sean Sweeney, which Sean Sweeney's kind of known as a defensive guy anyway, but if you do go that, right? If you go a Chris Quinn, could you get a guy like Tom Thibodeau to come in and say, well, Tom, we know you want to get back into coaching. Whenever you get a head coaching offer, we'll let you go. We support that. But hey, until then, can you help our new young guy help start establishing some things? Maybe. I'm not saying that that's for sure either, but maybe that's a question in regards to that. So in regards to it, I just wanted to kind of separate how it's being posted about and talk about the realness of it. And maybe there could be some business to be done with Tom Thibodeau, but maybe not in the way that some people are reporting it. I guess we shall see in regards to that. But let me know what you guys think in regards to it. You hear to Tom Thibodeau does have an interest to get back in head coach in coaching and would be open if Bryson Graham reached out to him. But if it's not the head coach, would you be interested if Tom Thibodeau would take it? Would you be interested in Tom Thibodeau potentially coming in as an assistant to a younger head coach? And let me know what you guys are going to think about that. The Bulls are currently not a proven playoff team. They don't have a culture. Tom Thibodeau can come in and help set that. And the question is that Tom Thibodeau, would he be patient enough in regards to that as well? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. But moving on from that, everything's about Bryson Graham, right? And so there are two things in regards to this that I want to talk about. One, reportedly, Bryson Graham is expected to have full autonomy to restructure the front office the way that he sees fit, right? Reportedly that Michael Reinsdorf as well deliberately gave flexibility in the process, and that is part of what they use to allure some people here. And so a lot of people have asked themselves, why would somebody leave a winning situation to come to the Chicago Bulls? You know, all the things going on in this franchise, and it seems like the Bulls have given Bryson Graham the right to build the front office as he sees fit, and that means investing in the front office and in regards to that as well, right? We already know the particulars. He inherits a roster with Josh Giddey, Miles Buzelis, Trey Jones, Noah Essengay, Jalen Smith, Rob Dillingham's on the roster, those type of things. $65 million in cap space, 2 first-round picks. Bryson Graham has all the tools that he needs for a rebuild. The question then becomes about supporting Bryson Graham and having the right thing that many people will remember. It was reported a year or so ago, right? I think maybe it was 3 years at this point, that the Bulls didn't have an analytics department. Now, they built out their player development department. They have a whole analytics team. I think some people think that a player development department, I don't think some people realize, how much the Bulls really invested in that. They created a whole staff, a whole facility whose job is just to scout and help players develop, right? And at the time that the Bulls did that, only 5 other franchises in the NBA had dedicated player development staffs and not just one of the assistant coach that was head of player development. And that's what the Bulls did, right? And they allowed AK to build out that team. So now Bryson Graham comes in, and we already know that he's younger. He has a different mindset. He does have the analytics part of that game. I do think that, him having the right support that he needs in that front office is going to be hugely important for him to have all the tools that he does need. But it really comes down to the basketball court. And, I've responded and talked about this on social media as well. I don't know how much having 15,000 staff members is going to help on the court to a degree, right? The front office is the front office. You want to have guys that separate, have their focus, all that type of thing. I think specifically the scouting department, you want to have an international scout, a college scout, a head of scouting overall. Then you want to also have somebody who does scouting ahead for games, scouting for players that you could sign as free agents, all that type of stuff. But it does seem like right now that Bryson Graham is going to be given all the tools, per what we're hearing, all the tools and flexibility that he needs to build out however he sees the front office fit. Now, that plays a part into the next thing that we're going to talk about, and that is that the Chicago Bulls reportedly still have an interest in Dave Lewin being the Chicago Bulls GM. Now, when this news dropped, I did go live on it, but I'm going to bring it back here in regards to it. I'll say this, right? Dave Lewin, who did not get the executive vice president role, we know that went to Bryson Graham. He did interview for that as well, but it reportedly that the Chicago Bulls still want him in the front office. His interview stood out because of the analytics and the plan that he had, the strategy that he had for the team. And so they heard his pitch and they loved it. They decided to go with Bryson Graham's pitch because they liked it a little bit more, but they loved the mindset that Dave Lewin had. Now, I do think this still comes down to Bryson Graham, and if this is his decision to go in and bring in a guy like Dave Lewin, this would still be a promotion for Dave Lewin. Dave Lewin is, he's learned behind Brad Stevens and Mike Zarin there in Boston. He's the assistant GM there. So adding him would still be a promotion for him. So when people are going to ask, why would Dave Lewin leave the Boston Celtics? A, it's still a promotion. And B, he would still be given a level of power that he does not have in decision-making, that he does not have currently in Boston, right? And so I think that the support that he can bring, and I've said this before, I said this when it was kind of more talked about Matt Lloyd, right? But same concept, is that if you can build a dream team, you do not have a salary cap for your front office, right? So if you can build a dream team of the front office and they work really well together, that's the if part of this. If they work really well together and they form that synergy, Dave Lewin has come from a franchise in the Boston Celtics where they do work collaboratively. Bryson Graham wants to work collaboratively. I've heard Bryson Graham talk about how when he was still in Pelicans and the new GM came over, how he kind of led that scouting at that point, gave the reports to the new GM, and they talked about it and did it together, right? And so that was somebody that was coming in to be your boss, technically. And so I think at this same point, Bryson Graham has learned. He's seen the collaborative effort that's needed to lead front offices. If he understands that too and brings in a guy like Dave Lewin, you may have all your bases covered at that point. You have your heavy scouting background, you have your analytics background, you have your all the type of stuff, and then you build out your front office together. Of course, with Bryson Graham still being the overall decision maker, but you do have to acquiesce some power as well to Dave Lewin if that ends up being the case. This would be the most kind of aggressive that we've seen the Bulls about a front office. To then land 2 of your top interviewees in your search for your VP, one as the VP, one as the GM, would be something that we really haven't seen the Bulls do before as far as aggression level, right? And again, it all comes down to Bryson Graham. I do not want, regardless of how highly I look at Dave Lewin and I looked at his resume and what he did, I don't want the Bulls saying, hey, Bryson, we need you to hire Dave Lewin as your GM. I want that to be a decision that Bryson Graham makes. And whoever that Bryson Graham decides to bring into that, like I said, I'm rolling with the decision until you show me that I can't trust your decision making, right? Again, the show me here. I'm going to trust whatever you show me. And that's the place that I'm in now with the Chicago Bulls. Bryson Graham inherits that. No knock to Bryson Graham. It's not that I don't believe that he can be good at the job. I actually think he could be really good at the job. But I also thought that AK could be good at the job, looking at his history, looking at his resume. So, I think in regards to that part of it, it's like, hey, just go out and show me that you can do it here as the lead decision maker. And if you can do that, great. Nobody's going to knock you for that one. It's no problem in regards to that one. But I do say that this continues to be a sign that the Chicago Bulls are really modernizing their front office. And as a franchise, the Chicago Bulls have basically ran the same way back since Jerry Krause was running this team, right? It's been variations of it, but it's been all basically the same thing. I think the same way that we needed to modernize our play on the court and we need to modernize our roster and how we build it out, we need to modernize the way that the front office operates and that we have people in place to do that. And that's what it seems like the Chicago Bulls are trying to do here. I keep saying the word seems like because, again, I can't just say that the Bulls are doing it for sure. I got to say seems like. So we'll see what happens in regards to that. And let me know what you guys think. If the Bulls are able to land Dave Lewin as the number 2 to Bryson Graham's number 1, how would that make you feel about this revamp of the front office? Would it automatically give you and make you feel kind of like they have all bases covered? It would very much feel like what I just said we can do with the coaching staff. Young head coach, veteran assistants, right? Which is, by the way, I want to make sure everybody understands this. Wes Unseld has a chance to say. I want to be clear in regards to that, that there's a chance that Wes Unseld could stay on the bench. But with all of that, we'll see. Last topic of the day that I do want to talk about before we get up out of here, right, is Modest Buzelis, right? When you look at Modest and the step up that he made from year 1 to year 2, when you look at those things, it's no doubt that Modest Buzelis stepped up last year. And many people wanted to see that leap from Modest Buzelis last season. It was a lot, and I told you guys basically the whole summer last year, like, hey, chill out. I don't think Modest is going to, like some people were saying, like average 18 points per game or something like that. Now, for what it's worth, Modest Buzelis did average 16 points per game. He was 51st overall in the NBA in scoring. I know that doesn't sound great, but when you think about how many players are in the NBA, like, yeah, that being 51st overall in the NBA in your second year is decent enough, right? His numbers rebounding went up from 3.5 to 5.8, which is solid enough. His blocks went from 0.9 to 1.5. His points per game went from 8 to 16. Modest Buzelis saw a step up in just about everywhere. His shots per game up from 6.9 up to 12.5, right? So almost 6 extra shots per game, with staying at the same. His efficiency actually went up from 45% shooting to 46% shooting, while his three-point shooting percentage went down from 36 to 34. But he took over double the amount of threes that he was taking and still hit that at a 35-ish% clip, which is solid enough for Modest Buzelis, which shooting was one of the knocks for him coming into this league, right? So the question now becomes about, for Bryson Graham, will Bryson Graham prioritize the development of a player like Modest, right? And that's something that we don't necessarily know. But I'd say when you look at Bryson Graham's history, drafting players like Trey Murphy III, getting guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, right, who we're high on, Zion Williamson, Asa Newell, right? Like guys like that, bringing Nickeil Alexander-Walker back to the Atlanta Hawks, right? For him with I think he was the one that drafted him before. So, like, there's no doubt that Bryson Graham has an eye for talent. How he views the ceiling of Modest Buzelis is going to be great here. Well, it's going to determine a lot here for the Chicago Bulls. But it's up for Modest to really take what he did in year 2 and take it a step further and show that he can actually grow his. If Modest Buzelis has a true breakout in year 3, that would be with more experience, the game slowing down for him, and being a consistent starter from day 1. He's probably going to be a starter in this. Modest Buzelis saw a really big leap in year 2. If he continues that trend and does get towards 18, 20 points per game, that is going to be an interesting part because it's going to say a lot about how they focus on Modest Buzelis. Is Modest getting more plays ran for him, right? Is the development of Modest and Josh Giddey, Essengay, right? How much of that takes the priority in regard to that, right? When you look at Modest Buzelis' rookie season, he scored more than 25 points twice, right? That's what he did, right? And he had a 28-point game and a 30-point game when it comes down to it as well. He scored 25 points. He scored more than 25 points 7 times last season, which still isn't a huge number. But I think when you look at it as well, like he didn't start off the season being the number 1, number 2, or number 3 option. He just wasn't, right? That was, Kobe White. That was Josh Giddey at times, right? So Modest Buzelis really didn't have that high priority in that. I think he's going to come into year 3, and unless some changes happen, he's going to be a lot more prioritized in that. And I would not be surprised, depending on the coach that we end up hiring, if the system's more built around Josh Giddey, specifically creating for Modest Buzelis, and you see Modest get more opportunities. We started seeing it towards the after the trade deadline, after the Bulls blew up the roster. Modest had more times to create on-ball, off-ball, things like that. We saw sometimes when Josh Giddey was sitting, Modest got time to run the point forward. These are going to be things that are all could be thrown on Modest Buzelis in year 3. I think the evaluation of Modest and where Bryson Graham and eventually whoever becomes the head coach, how they see Modest in the hierarchy there. Same thing with Noah Essengate, right? I've said this before. I know the thing, everybody saw the thing that came out in regards to Noah Essengate is now 7 feet tall, I've been saying that for a while. He looked taller. Keep in mind, Noah Essengate didn't go to the draft combine the year he was drafted, so they didn't get the official measurements there. I think he was already 6'10", 6'11" there, but now Noah Essengate is officially 7 feet tall. But I think as well, that doesn't matter if you can't get on the basketball court. The thing I say about Noah Essengate is, I don't care how slight a frame you are, you got to get out on the court. You got to show that you're an actual NBA player this year. It doesn't mean that you have to average 10, 12 points per game, but you have to show that you can be in those trenches on an NBA court and play NBA basketball. And I think these are two things in the evaluation period, as well as whoever we draft as our rookies this year, seeing this young team grow and mold together could be really fucking fun, right? And I think it's been a while since we've had a true youth movement with the Chicago Bulls, right? Even when we started after the Zach LaVine trade, and, Modest was a little bit more prioritized, but more importantly, guys like Ayo Dosunmu, right? Guys like Kobe White. We called it a youth movement then, but those guys had already been in the league 3-4 years at that point in time. We're now talking about truly, first, second, and third, fourth-year players all being the guys that are the backbone of this team this year. And I think when you really look at this, right, what everything says about the Chicago Bulls and the Chicago Bulls' future is that it is one that is going to be built around the youth. Now, how quickly that youth develops can determine how quickly we are back to contention. But I think that there's upside on this team. And when getting the right guys to extract that talent from this team is going to be the thing that's there. Bryson Graham is going to have to decide how fast or slow the shift in this rebuild should go for the Chicago Bulls. And I don't think that the Bulls can afford to have a mixed message in regards to that. You have to have alignment. Front office, coaching staff, roster. You have to have alignment in that one. And that's when you can really start breeding the best thing and the best environment for a franchise. And you can start building the culture at that point. So let's see what Bryson Graham brings. Let's see how important Modest Buzelis is going to be into that one. You guys know I'm high on Modest Buzelis. I love Modest Buzelis. I think that he has the sky's the limit for him, but potential isn't always realized. And you can get sometimes you can get burnt betting on potential. So we'll see. But that's going to do it for today's episode. The Bulls are finally moving into the Bryson Graham era. But now becomes the hard part for this team. Hiring the right coach, building out the front office, developing players, using cap space in the right way, hitting on your draft picks. These are all important things in regards to this one. You don't get instant culture. You have to build culture. And I'll see if the Bulls can add someone like Dave Lewin, depending on the coaching staff that they bring as well. I can't wait to see how this all sets the tone for a culture for the Chicago Bulls. And we'll see what's going to happen in regards to that one. But that's going to do it for today. I appreciate you guys rocking with me. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell if you never want to miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you ready if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.